Hello, friends and brothers. This is Justin Jones, and with my co-host Dennis Yates, and we're live. What's up, Dennis? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Doing great. Glad to be live. Glad to be a
Y-
Mason and glad to be here on Masonic Improvement. What do you guys know of today that's new?
I don't have anything new. I'll be at Zern Lodge on the 22nd, giving a presentation on astrology and Freemasonry. That's really all I got going on this week. I mean, all this
Man,
this month.
I hope you studied up good for that one because you got some people that really know astrology and Freemasonry down there.
I figure I'll just wing it and be okay.
Hmm. That's awesome. I'm going to Gray Lodge this week over in Houston. I'm going to Oso, Gray, and then back up to San Antonio for the Scottish Rite on Thursday.
Mm.
It's gonna be a busy week.
Yeah, I'll be
Tell
traveling.
my
Go ahead.
tell my brother. Uh, his name just blanked on me. He's your junior warden down in Oso.
Oh, Oscar? Oscar
Yeah,
Medina?
Oscar Medina. Yeah, tell him I said what's up.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, every once in a while he jumps in on this. He doesn't usually do the lives, but every once in a while he jumps in on and watches the show, so he'll see it.
Yeah.
He'll probably
yeah.
see it.
Hey, someone's got their mic on. I don't know who it is. Okay, it just stopped. All right. Yeah, we were getting some background noise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be traveling with my district deputy a lot this month, so I'll be doing a lot of lodge visits. Also, he's doing his official visits. So
Yeah, we've got our first official visit at Oso tomorrow or Tuesday.
nice.
So that's gonna be interesting. I can't wait to see that, hear that. I heard it's a pretty long presentation, but I hadn't uh, I hadn't heard it yet, so who knows?
Hmm.
But
Do
I'm
we?
looking forward to it.
Yeah, yeah. Have you gone to a Grandmasters conference yet?
Not yet. I have had so much going on here lately that
Yeah.
I have not had a chance, and I am ready to. Though the first one that'll be close is going to be the one in San Antonio, and that's the same day as our reunion. So I will not be attending that one.
Man, that's unfortunate
Unfortunately,
timing.
that is very unfortunate timing. The
Yeah.
officer leadership training is the same weekend as well,
Hmm.
and what's very
Are they not doing it after OLT
it's
like they
it's
did in Fort
very
Worth?
it's very disappointing. Yes, they're doing it after
Okay.
OLT. But the reunion lasts until around 5 or 6
Hmm.
at night. So maybe I'll be able to make it. I don't know. But um, what's very unfortunate is that the Goliad Lodge, um, or the Phantom Memorial is that morning while the OLT is going on. So the OLT is competing with the Phantom Memorial, where the Grandmaster will be, and everybody else in the world. And then, um, and then the Grandmaster's going up to San Antonio to do his Grandmaster's conference after the OLT. And both of those are happening. All three of those are happening at the same time as our reunion.
We need all of
So
our.
it's very disappointing
We need like a unified calendar across the district, across the jurisdiction, and furthermore,
across the
if
state.
well, yeah, across the entire state. And furthermore, I need to be able to say, hey, I want to do something on this day. What Grand Lodge things is it conflicting with, but also what else is going on within a 100-mile radius or a 50-mile radius or something like that. And that way, if two towns over they're doing something, and I don't know about it, we're not competing, and it includes like your Scottish Rite, York Rite, all the pendant, anything like that, anything that could possibly pull people away where they're going to different places. It will eliminate that
Yeah,
because this is absurd.
we've discussed this many times on the black and white mode. Cool. On our show, and yeah, that's very disappointing. Now, I can say that our Grandmaster, his plan was to do the Phantom Memorial from day one since last year. When he figured out what happened last year with the debacle that happened with planning with the Phantom Memorial, he reached out immediately and asked me, "Hey, when is this happening?" And that way we could get that down so that he could have it planned out, prior. And so his has been on the books.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then OLT, I still think San Antonio's too close to Goliad to miss it. It's not that far of a drive. And so people from, we drive up to San Antonio for the Alamo Remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
So why would other people in San Antonio not drive down to Goliad for the Phantom Memorial? It's all part of Texas history. So why are we not doing that if that's an important thing to our Masonic journey, right? Yeah. But the reunion, I wasn't. I'm not one of the ones who make those decisions, so I just have to leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say that I'm happy for it or whatever. I know that their reason for doing it so soon is for because of the air conditioner system. It hasn't been fixed yet. It will be fixed soon.
Trying to get it before summer comes around, before it starts getting hot.
Yeah, but they wanted to have the reunion before it started getting hot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We want to do it before it gets like 100 degree temperature.
Because we wanted to do it on the stage and all that kind of stuff, and do all, well, not all, but 26 of the 29 degrees this time.
Nice.
So it's going to be a good time, but I fear that competing with Grand Lodge in both directions was not a good move for us.
Yeah. Good. Do we want to jump into our quote?
I don't know how early they post that calendar, but I did get to go to the Grandmasters Conference this last weekend over in Beaumont, and he's got a full calendar, and it is all posted on the Grandmasters page. So if you're looking, in the future, at least this Masonic year, they'll be able to get that done up. But yeah, they were big on trying to push out all the dates to the OLTs and the conferences and all that stuff at the conference this last Saturday.
Right, and yeah, I was telling right before you got on, last year, they called me whenever everything got messed up with Grand Lodge coming to the Phantom Memorial last year. They called me and said, "Hey, when is it going to happen?" And so I knew that they would be here during the Phantom Memorial on the right weekend and all that kind of good stuff. But I think the other people involved could have been a little bit more cognizant of what was going on. Like I said, OLT, I strongly believe in it. Justin and I have been preaching it and teaching it for years, and it's a must go for all young officers. However, that being said, we've got an Alamo Remembrance that people from all over South Texas go up to San Antonio, and San Antonio should not be too big to come down to some of the other remembrances as well, like Goliad and of course Gonzales.
Well, it needs to go both ways. It needs to reciprocate.
And it doesn't.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
Just because and it's not just a Masonic thing, but just because you're a large city doesn't mean that the things that smaller communities are putting out has any less value, or any more. It's not as worth as much historically. You need to be if three guys from a small town come to your lodge, you got to understand that's probably the majority of the active guys there. You need to reciprocate and go at least visit them or something, or if they got something going on, you need to go to that. It goes both ways.
Yeah, we should be more serious about contributing to our brethren.
Absolutely,
we really should. I understand everybody has their limitations and has their schedules, and life happens and family happens and this and that. But, we could try a little bit harder, because like I said, I'm going to Houston on a Wednesday night to go over to Gray Lodge at the invitation of the Worshipful Master. And, I don't know. If I can do it, come home, go to bed, get up early for work the next morning, I think anybody else can do it too if they really want to.
I agree.
I'm not saying everybody has to do that every weekend or every week or every day or whatever. I'm just saying that it can happen from time to time, if we want to support our brothers in the things that they're doing.
Speaking of supporting our brothers, someone here just got our certificate in our little inner circle group. So congratulations, Brad.
Hey.
I went to my first forum and exam this year by Right Worshipful Cody Stewart in Louisville on Saturday, and I got my first 3-year certificate. So
Nice, man.
yeah,
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
That's huge. A, B, or C?
hey,
Good. Nice.
yeah.
That's what I like to hear, bro. Good
Oh,
job.
yeah.
Wow, congratulations.
I know enough now to impart correct instruction.
Very nice. Very nice.
At least that's what it says on the paper.
Well, that's awesome. That's a huge congratulations to you. Let's jump into the quote, if y'all don't mind.
Go ahead.
I'll read it out for those that aren't in the Zoom. It's lengthy this week, but I thought it was very interesting. So,
Of course it is with you.
and if I took it out of context, I think it would have lost some of its oomph. Okay, a Masonic Constitution dated 1701 gives the following naive account of the origin of the sciences, arts, and crafts from which the major part of Masonic symbolism is derived. Alright, now here's a quote. How this worthy science was first begun, I shall tell. Before Noah's flood, there was a man called Lamech, as it is written in the 4th chapter of Genesis. And this Lamech had 2 wives. The one was called Ada, and the other was called Zillah. By the first wife Ada, he got 2 sons, the one called Jabal, and the other Jubal. And by the other wife, Zillah, he got a son and daughter, and the 4 children found the beginning of all crafts in the world. This Jabal was the elder son, and he found the craft of geometric, and he parted flocks as of sheep and lambs in the fields, and first wrought houses of stone and tree, as it is known in the chapter. Aforesaid, and his brother Jubal found the craft of music, of songs, organs, and harp. The third brother, and here it has in quotes, Tubal Cain, found out smith's craft to work iron and steel, and their sister Naamah found out the art of weaving. These children did know that God would take vengeance for sin, either by fire or water. Wherefore they wrote these sciences, which they had found in 2 pillars of stone, that they might be found after the flood. The one stone was called marble, which cannot burn with fire, and the other one was called laterus, and then it has in quotes like brass with a question mark, because they're talking about brass, that cannot drown in the water. The author of this constitution thereupon declares that one of these pillars was later discovered by Hermes, who communicated to mankind the secrets thereon inscribed. And that is the end of the quote.
Who quoted that?
Like, where did this originate from?
Mm-hmm.
This is from, thank you for asking because I would have forgot. This is from Secret Teachings of All Ages. On my book, it is page 566, and it is the chapter on Masonic symbolism. Yep, 566, Masonic symbolism by Manly P. Hall. So I know there's a lot of kind of uncertainty with writers like Hall, right? Like where did he get his information from and all that. But I thought it was interesting for several reasons that stood out to me. But I also don't want it to like hog the whole conversation. So I was curious on other people's thoughts on that quote.
I say go ahead first.
Okay. So the things that really stood out to me about this was, of course, the allusion to Tubal Cain, which we're all familiar with that name, but I don't think a lot of us really know like the origins of that. However, also the fact that we're talking about two pillars, which Dennis and I have talked about quite a bit, but in this case they're not made of brass. They're made of, one's made of marble, and the other is made of it calls it, what's the actual terminology? Let me find it. It's made of laterus, but the origin of that name seems to like not be sure, because they're like, was it talking about brass or whatever? And so in brass that cannot drown in water, and so we have our own myth about pillars that are made to resist certain elements in our work. So it really stood out to me. And I've heard before that the original, like long ago, the degrees were more focused on like Noah than they were King Solomon. I don't know how accurate that was, but that stood out to me quite a bit, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
Right. Well, the we all know that Hiram Abiff, the principal character in Masonic teachings, is a smith worker as well, and you know his claim to fame was the brass pillars of King Solomon, and making them the way that they were, and then was the third person in the trilogy story. And I don't know, I would not want to tackle any of that. I wish I had known you were going to say that. I would have read that chapter with Manly P. Hall, read it over again, because it's been a while, and there's no way I want to just jump into what Manly P. Hall is talking about with
well,
just
it's safe. It's safe to be it's safe to be wrong. Like, we're just here just to discuss like what really strikes out to us, what our thoughts are, and it's just like with the other quotes. You can. To
be honest with you, what worries me is all the naysayers out there that are going to say, "Oh, everything that you build your fraternity on is a hoax because you say this, and this isn't true, and this wasn't in the Bible, and blah 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 blah." You know, all that kind of good stuff.
I mean, they're gonna naysay no matter what, but it's all good. It's all good.
Gonna do it. But yeah, I mean that's cool. I like the idea, and yes, there have been several accounts given by brothers. I believe John Nagy gave one, and a brother William Boyd, Bill Boyd, he wrote a book on the Noah story, and
yeah, that just came out not long ago, I think.
Last year, maybe the year before, but it wasn't too long ago, and so if either one of y'all or if anyone out there is interested, those two authors have books on the Noah stories, and that's pretty cool. One of the things that I've been doing, I was listening to the Esoterica podcast, and
is that the same guy on YouTube?
Yes.
The Jewish guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I've been listening to one of the latest ones that I was listening to was the accounts of Enoch. And you know that when we talk about the Old Testament like that's what those are the things that pop into my mind, and the hermeticism that's involved in that. And another interesting point to think about in what that quote is talking about there is the fire and water. You know, those aren't you may think he's talking about condemnation of people with fire and water, but that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about um, salvation through fire and water. Fire and water are initiatory um, tools of cleansing. And so when one of the things when we're talking about something like that and we hear fire and water, then we have to remember that that's not an account of punishment like the profane would believe just hearing it at face value. Us being Masons, we know that in an alchemical sense, those are initiatory um, um, oh, what am I looking for? Initiatory elements of in rites of passage and in cleansing,
Mhm.
and so in purification, I should say. So when we hear something like that, then we have to remember that we're all at fault to some degree, and we're purified through these different uh, stages of initiation, and so it's kind of cool. I like that. I like the references there. I don't know how completely accurate it is,
Mhm. Yeah, that's the thing, right?
but the allegory is cool, and you can go anywhere with it, really, if you want to. If you really want to, you can.
Yeah. Well, and look at if before anyone talks about like using elements for initiation, that's I mean look at baptism with water, right? It's the same. And baptism wasn't born out of a vacuum, right? It wasn't something John the Baptist came up with 2,000 years ago. It had
Oh no, he got it from the Essenes, and then the
yes.
Essenes got it from somewhere. It's yeah, you're absolutely right. So, but naturally, when you're talking about the period of Noah and all that, and you hear water, you're thinking, oh, the death of all mankind, and no, it's purification.
Hmm.
It's still purification. That's what it is in that instance.
Interesting. It's an interesting perspective on that.
Well,
Brad.
I'll jump in and be the next one to be wrong. Um, I read this when you posted it in the Facebook group, Justin, and I was really curious about that word latur, laterus. So I googled it. That's as any good millennial would do. And the first one that popped up, the first result, kind of showed that it was a Latin-based word, and it was a future active tense, um, most often meaning about to carry, about to report, or about to consider. And taking those back into the context, there were two. I think I just lost my light. Hanging out in the truck again. Uh, the oh no, really
I
lost
get
it.
it. There's some
Okay, the
things
two,
your wife just isn't going to understand. Hiding in the
but
truck to talk masonry is one of them. I get it.
so hey, I'm pulling a Dennis.
Yeah.
We're actually at main event right now to celebrate my daughter's birthday tomorrow.
Oh shit! I feel
So
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 bad.
it was super loud. So I just wanted to step outside. Um,
Don't be a
and
dentist, please.
oh no, hey,
That's awesome.
uh,
Oh.
I mean, it's just like when you were in Vegas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but anyway, reading through that, it talked about they knew um, that God would take vengeance, and they didn't know if it was by fire or water. So I assumed that they made one of marble, thinking that it would withstand fire, and then made one of brass, or potentially brass, that wouldn't be affected by the water, because we know that marble in the water will become eroded, and brass in the fire would melt.
Hmm.
Um, so being able to write all of this, these crafts on there to be preserved through what became Noah's flood, would be a great undertaking there. Um, and that's just kind of it keyed back in on that term, um, that it's about to carry or about to report or consider, and bring that information back to uh, culture as the humanity thrived post flood.
Nice.
That's interesting. Yeah, and also I would add to that, and also circle that with Dennis's idea that so many initiatic orders used water and fire as part of their rites of passage to bring people in. I think it's also interesting to consider that symbolically they were made to survive fire and water so that they were there for the candidate after he passed to initiation. So symbolically, like if I was, I think it was like Africa or somewhere I've seen, or maybe South America, where the tribe they have like a ring of fire, not Johnny Cash, but it's a ring of fire, and part of their or they walk over like the coals in Hawaii, same concept, but they have to pass through this fire, and it's a rite of passage to becoming a man. We mentioned like the whole Baptist thing, but that, like Dennis pointed out, the Essenes were doing that a long time before Christianity as we know it today, but also even preceding the Essenes, there was baptism like water related rituals, and so the idea like here's all this knowledge, but you have to pass through this initiatic process, this rite of passage to have access to it. I think is also interesting, an interesting thought process to approach that with. Brad, you got anything?
And I think it's also important to point out, I don't know, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm nowhere near as studied on some of those as you are. But Hall wrote this book before becoming a Freemason.
I think he did. I think so.
Yeah.
I think he wrote most of his
All
books.
Ages was written before he became a Freemason. So that, or at least that's what I'd heard previous. So it was one of those things is, can we really, he studied it, but maybe he didn't have access to all the light when he wrote this book.
Yeah. Very possible. Brad, you got any thoughts?
Yeah. It just kind of goes back. If you look at so I was looking up the history of Lamech, who is a direct descendant of, Adam and Eve. It says six different. So it's Adam and Eve, and then Cain. Cain killed his brother Abel, in the Bible stories, and then Cain's son Enoch, and then they had a son Irad, Mahujael, and Meth Methuselah, and then Lamech, and then so he was like the seventh in line from the OG original from the Bible. Uh, and then his sons basically created all the different, crafts, the iron working and the music and the let's see, Jubal played the music. Jabal, he basically dealt with livestock and things like that. And then Tubal Cain was a forger of bronze and iron tools. And I don't know if y'all ever saw that the movie Noah with
I did.
Russell Crowe.
That was a pretty cool
Well,
movie.
Tubal Cain is in that movie and gets on the so like there's also these giant mythical creatures. They but anyway they Tubal Cain ends up getting on the ark um, with Noah and his family, but he kind of snuck in the back somehow and climbed the outside
Wow.
wall. But it was pretty interesting. There's a lot of really
Don't you hate it when they
things
take
that kinda
artistic
tie it.
license with a book?
Yeah, yeah. There were mentions of some kind of giant mythical creatures in the Bible. I forget what they're called.
Nephilim.
Nephilim,
Mhm.
yeah. And apparently they held back like the people as the flood was coming or something in the movie.
I got you. Okay.
In the movie they did. And then when the water hit them, they just shot up to
Right, because
wherever.
Latterm in the Bible, they were a form of angels, and that's why
Yeah.
Who were? What were?
they did that at the Latterum in the Bible.
Okay.
those were a form of angels, and so that's why they did what they did at the end of the movie. I thought that was a pretty cool depiction of that they were there as helpers sent from God, and then whenever it was done and they did their part, and they just, you saw their spirit.
That's ascending. Peace out.
Yeah, I thought it was really neat.
I hope I never witnessed that. I really do. If I do, I'm going to be sorely disappointed.
Well, they all speak like modern
I've
kids.
I've already
They're
been disappointed by just watching you now do it. If it happens then yeah, it's all bets are off.
Something that I wanted to kind of tack onto this, since we're talking about like flood myths and things like this, and we've kind of talked about flood myths being universal before. So this is not strictly Masonic, but it's interesting. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to throw this out for just like candy for your brain, okay? In 1965, there was a guy, he practiced remote viewing. And remote viewing, for those of you that don't know, is it's this concept where you can kind of go into like a trance. Edward Casey did this. Edward Casey, if you're not familiar with him, he's also like, he's a whole thing you need to check out. But so Chan Thomas, he did remote viewing, and he was looking into like the ancient past of the world. And he published this book in 1965, and immediately the CIA is like, no, we're just gonna take this. And so you can get copies of it now, but it's very the term here on the CIA website, because this is a document on the CIA website, is declassified in part, sanitized copy, approved for release. So already you have to wonder, why was the CIA so interested in this, and why is it only partly declassified? And the whole thing is like, if this remote viewing concept is bollocks, right? If it's garbage, why even do this at all?
Because they had those studies in the 60s on LSD and the effects of channeling. You know that movie Men and Goats, or Men Who Stare at Goats.
What's his name?
That's a true thing with George Clooney. Yeah.
George Clooney, yeah.
That's a true thing, that back then they were actually studying. They were trying to study the control of, basically spiritual warfare, mental warfare. Yeah. And so that's probably why a lot of it was declassified, because there were several people that went through that program that, are apparently pretty good at it. And I believe that to some degree it's possible with any man. And I think but their capabilities were probably heightened through that program, and that's why whatever they wrote was declassified, or classified, because they went through that program. Probably.
That's a good point. And interestingly enough, like remote viewing is still implemented by the government. There are some out there that are very, very accurate. So there's something to it. But anyway, so this book is called The Adam and Eve Story, not the story of Adam and Eve like you read of in Genesis. And I'll give you the short and sweet of this, and anyone can find it. It's like I said, it's on the CIA website. If you're not comfortable going to the CIA website, first of all, shame on you, clean your computer. But also, secondly, you can probably find like the declassified version on Amazon.
3 words, people: duck, duck, go.
But anyway, the short and sweet, the concept of this is that the Earth, and we talk about things being cyclical all the time, right? The Earth has a rotation to it. Because, spoiler, it's a globe, right? It's a sphere. But periodically, that rotation either stops or it starts to go the other way. And it's a pretty abrupt change. And what happens when you have something so drastic and so quick on an object that is covered in water, right? It's just like if you have like a box of water and you push it and then you stop. What does the water do? It just keeps going. So this concept is that the rotation just stops basically, or switches. Either way, it's something very dramatic, and the water in the air continues to go at the same speed it was already going. This is like the law of inertia, right? So it's going thousands of miles an hour. Hold on. And so when it stops, the water in the air keeps going, and it creates like these like drastic floods and everything. Go ahead, Dennis. Sorry, I just want to get that out.
Oh, well, you're talking about that as being one of the ways that the causes for floods in the cleansing of the earth.
I'm just saying, according to
I got a different, more plausible way.
Go ahead.
That could happen. I mean, do you know what happens in the Amazon every year? Did you know that it floods itself every year for 40 foot of water every year?
No, I didn't know that.
Yep, sure does. And it kills a lot of wildlife, kills a lot of stuff, and when back in those times there was so much forestry all around the world that I'm pretty certain that probably happened in a lot more than just a place like the Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And to where the water with the abundance of water on the earth, as well as the water that was accumulated in the sky from the moisture in the air, I think that it could happen just as well. Well, it happens in Africa as well. There's that area in Africa that does the same thing. It floods every year. And now in Africa, it's not quite so deep. It's only, a few feet deep. But in the Amazon, it is truly 40 foot deep in a lot of areas.
Well,
so
that's why we have this huge system of dams here in North Texas, because Waco in particular was notorious for the flooding it used to get off from the Brazos every year. And so
right.
it's not hard to see.
And they wanted to control their own water so that we couldn't have any down here in South Texas. Mm-hmm. I know. I mean, I
probably
know
that too.
Right? We get to deal with the droughts down here because of the jackasses up there. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? It's not the current jackasses. It's the one from
long ago,
from 50 years ago.
Long ago. Well, there have been.
I know. I digress. But yeah. So it's plausible that it could be a lot more simple than just.
Yeah, and I think we had discussed before, like the flooding being regional. That's why you see it from it is a universal story, right? There's flood myth in every major culture across the globe, and so you could say it's because of regional flooding. I just wanted to throw this out as a interesting
right.
little side.
That's interesting.
Little rabbit hole that you could go down as for maybe it was a global, and that would explain why so much water would according to all these cultures, it just came up out of nowhere. And you were talking about raining and stuff in the Old Testament, but like I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I thought I would share it. We have talked about like cyclical civilizations, right? Where civilizations rise and fall. And we're not talking about like nations. We're talking about like global civilizations rising and falling. And this would be like a major factor in the elimination of that. But that's neither here nor there. It's just the quote we had reminded me of this rabbit hole, and so I just wanted to throw it out there.
No, that's cool, because I mean, in all reality, we had an ice age as well, and how is an ice age going to occur without a shit ton of water, right? So it's plausible, but I wouldn't say it's plausible that the Earth stopped its rotation. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that it even slowed that much. But I would say that it, we had some kind of a flood, some kind of a big flood that created that mess.
Well, the idea being,
or an asteroid hit and covered the Earth with and the dust from that asteroid hitting covered the Earth in dust and created darkness, and then all the water froze. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's another idea, and that dust in the air would also cause rain to happen, right. Would cause rain to occur because it would cause the skies to get heavy in anywhere where there's water in the atmosphere.
And there is evidence, and I can't remember the name of it.
I'm not a scientist.
But there's evidence of an event at the end of the Ice Age that brought on the end of that, and I can't remember what it is. But you watch the same shows I do. Like an asteroid struck the Earth somewhere in the North Hemisphere.
I know that asteroids struck the Earth, but I didn't know that they had that idea.
Yeah, it's around like if you look at the time period where
30,000 BCE.
something like that, if you look at the time period where the
that's
Ice
the
Age
end of
ended, and then you had like all these ancient historians where they like give you a timeline like, hey, this is when Atlantis was destroyed and or whatever. This is when like the great big
30,000 BCE.
yeah, it all lines up. And so the Ice Age ended really abruptly. We know something struck the North Hemisphere on like a ice shelf, and we have all these ruins we're just finding, like Göbekli Tepe and all these surrounding. They're dated back to around that same time period too. Like, wow, all of a sudden, did all these civilizations just
I visited those ruins. Yes.
Have you been there?
Cool. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
How long ago was that?
This past year.
I did not know. No, what?
Yes.
That's cool, man. That's really
I've
cool.
been to three different ruins in South America. They're pretty awesome.
Wait. Oh, Göbekli. Okay, that's the one. That's the. All right. Yeah, I'm thinking about something else. Yeah, because I was like, when did you go to Europe? It's it's another one, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's also around the same period. And they just recently started uncovering it, and I can't remember the name of anything tonight, guys. But it was in
And
some
here
guy's.
you are quoting shit. Yeah.
It was in some guy's farm, and he found this rock, and it was like,
Talking
that's
about
weird.
pulling a Dennis. You know, we're talking about pulling a Dennis here. That's pulling a Dennis.
Yeah, but he found
Fake
this.
it till you make it.
He found
You
this.
got my support.
Oh my god, he found this rock, and he's like, this has some really weird carvings on it, and he couldn't lift it up, so they started excavating, and they found like this whole complex of these giant stones that were sticking up and things, and they're like, that's really strange. It shouldn't be here. And then they started looking, and there's other similar complexes in the area. I think it's like in Turkey.
Right, right. I know which one you're talking about.
yeah.
That is a cool discovery.
Yeah. Let me pull that up.
In the middle of Babylon itself. For those of you who didn't realize, that's where Turkey is. Babylon. Or that's the general area.
Okay, Göbekli Tepe. Is that the one in South America? 12,000 years old. No, Göbekli Tepe was the one I was thinking about. It's the one in Turkey.
I'm thinking of Tepe or something like that. Then hold on just a second. I'll find it.
Because there's others nearby, and they're all named Tepe after like the same theme.
Yeah.
The ruins you talking about the ones up in the mountains?
The Mayan ruins. I need to just look at a map and tell you which ones I've been to.
Chichen Itza? No.
There you go.
Is that
That's
the one?
of them. That's one of them. Chichen Itza. That's a big one.
And then there's Ekbalam.
My favorite one is the one. They actually showed it in the. My favorite one was the one that they showed in on that show, the
Ancient Apocalypse.
Ancient Apocalypse, yeah.
Uh-huh.
The one that they said that shows the snake during the solstice. Remember that one?
Yeah, isn't that North?
That's
yeah.
That's my favorite one. That's my favorite one, and it's not. It's not very big compared to the other ones, but it is pretty freaking awesome. It's cool. And you can only see the top tip of it, and it's huge, and you can only see the top tip of it, but if you look down the mountain, you can see it. It's been overgrown with grass and stuff, but if you look down like an Egyptian.
So they still
look down the mountain, you can see how big it is.
They haven't excavated the entire thing?
Oh, no.
It's that big?
It's that overgrown, yeah.
Wow. It's really interesting to me, and I know we're kind of going down this rabbit hole, but this is a very interesting topic to me. How you have all these really old, ancient sites that constructed things on such a massive scale with such massive materials that we could not do. And you can say, well, they had slaves or they had thousands of people. Like the data that
it'd be like ants picking up. Ants can pick up like they they equate the strength of an ant to being able to be a human that can pick up an airplane.
Did
There's
not know
no
that.
way that many humans could pick up one of those big old rocks from that
Yeah.
they put in these. Yeah, that's
Well,
crazy.
they've estimated for like the pyramids of Giza for the timeline that we're told that they built these at with the amount of people that we're told worked on it. You'd have to be placing a stone like every like 2 seconds or something like that. It's not it's not feasible. Plus, they didn't have tools to cut those stones. We were told they did it with copper, but we can't replicate that today. So there is I have heard particularly like it was a story out of the Amazon where long ago when they were still exploring it, they uncovered like they noticed some birds would go up and there was like a red plant and they would like pull it up in their beak and go to the cliffs and they are rubbing it on the cliff with with their beak. But these birds would lay their nest in these little alcoves, like these little indentions in the stone, and people just assumed it was just these natural indentions. But what it was is as they rubbed this plant on the stone, they could peck it out. It would like loosen the stone. So I'm not saying there's not something possibly like that we've just lost at the time that would make these like really high density stones like andesite that is like it's like you can only cut it with diamond. We could only cut it with diamond, but you're telling us they did it with like stone tools or copper. But if there was a way to soften that stone somehow,
Oh,
then
you know how they did it?
how's that?
They poured sand on it and then rubbed it. Diamond cut. It's just like using a diamond cut blade.
I don't know about that. I've seen people try to emulate that, and it doesn't work. I've
Same.
heard that theory, but I've seen people try to do it. Anyway, sorry, we've got we went down the rabbit hole. So
Right. Well, a rabbit hole that neither one of us can explain, so we probably ought to move on because we're both not that smart.
okay,
So I want to go back to the quote in the
Please
Hermes
do.
when it was talking
Please
about the
do.
Hermes. I looked up. Elon Musk has got this Grok AI thing. You can download the app and it's free and it's. I plugged that whole quote into it, and you can explore different avenues with that, and it'll give you different. And I asked it to give me the go down the rabbit hole of the Hermes and tell me more about Hermes in layman's terms to try to help me understand more about how why they matched up Hermes with this and how Hermes allegedly found the pillars and basically it said it's a mix of old beliefs. Said historians note that this matchup of Bible stories and Hermes, a pagan figure, shows how people in the 1700s, when Freemasonry was getting organized, loved blending ideas. They didn't see it as weird to mix Christianity with ancient Greek and Egyptian myths. Modern thinkers interpret it as a kind of spiritual remix. Thought that was kind of neat the
wow,
way
that's
that you
pretty
guys
good.
explained that.
That's pretty good
Yeah.
feedback from that.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, because that's the reality. In fact, uh, if you've if you read or learn about Mary Magdalene,
Hmm.
um, it's said that her teachings that she learned in private from Jesus were more hermetic. And the other apostles, not only were they offended because she was a woman, saying that Jesus shouldn't have been giving her this information, and he shouldn't have been kissing her on the lips and all this kind of stuff, but she also had a different theology than they had, and they shunned her for that. And that that type of those teachings were hermetic in print in nature, and that's where I was going back to that the to Enoch and the teachings of Enoch and the Enochian teachings. It's more hermetic in nature, and so they say it's interesting. They call it pagan. It's just a different theology than Christianity. I mean, really, it's just a different spiritual path than modern day Christianity, I should say, because I also believe that Jesus was doing other things than just what we read about in the.
Oh, of course. Yeah, he had to be.
Because we only have books from these certain authors. We don't have books from all the apostles. We don't have books from, in fact, it was said that I think, who was it? Philip was close with Mary Magdalene after Jesus's death, and so it is very possible that their thoughts and beliefs in what Jesus was teaching went a different direction and carried on with that's where you get some of the Gnostic type, teachings. And I'm not saying that I'm Gnostic. I'm just saying that that's where you get a lot of those teachings. And I tend to believe a lot of it. I tend to believe that and once we go through the Kabbalion, you'll understand, because the Hermetic teachings are more in line with Mother Nature, I would say. Let's call it Mother Nature. I mean, they're the rules, and it's almost like the rules of Earth, the rules of science.
And they're accurate. Like you can observe and say, okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I
can see that in all things. Yes.
There's a comment that I want to address real quick. It's kind of a side quest here, but I think it's worth looking at. I don't know who it is, but their inner circle, their username is Blue Hat Wearing Penguin Vods. So I don't know who that is.
Blue Hat Wearing Penguin Bots?
Vods. VODs. So, hey guys, I need some help. I'm on the lineup at my lodge, but I'm considering dropping out and traveling. I feel like I need a younger lodge, but I feel like I'll be doing my home lodge a disservice. What are your thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just being nice by doing that. I would say that definitely do some traveling. However, I wouldn't necessarily abandon your Blue Lodge, that particular lodge. I wouldn't. If you're in the line already, see it through. If it's feasible with the travel that you're talking about and what what the needs of the lodge are, I would say, do both. Have your cake and eat it too. And the reason why is because, like with the Scottish Rite, if I hadn't mentioned, the reunion's coming up in San Antonio. With the Scottish Rite, our belief is that we go to the University of Freemasonry so that we can take it back to our Blue Lodge. So travel, enjoy your Freemasonry. The best thing you can do for your lodge is to travel and come up with some fresh ideas to bring back to your lodge. And no, you won't always hit a home run with every idea, but if you can get it just a couple of guys to a couple of brothers to consider some of the things that you're seeing out there that are actually working for the betterment of the craft, then maybe they'll support you and help you to nurture a few of those ideas and make it happen. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, then so be it. Do something different next time. Brad is a perfect example of this. He did that this year with his lodge and just worked his tail off, and some things stuck and made an extremely valuable impression to the members, and some things didn't. And that's okay. Not everything's gonna stick. But the sentiment that being tied to one lodge is a thing of the past. We now realize that it's important to travel around because our regions are so vast and our ideals are so vast that we need to do that to cultivate our Freemasonry to be more encompassing.
My thoughts are similar to an extent. I would say it really depends on some things. Like, why are you considering it? Right? Is it just because you're the youngest guy and you feel like they don't want you, or is it like a toxicity issue? Like, are they kind of, is there like a clique problem going on? But also, where are you at on the line? Like, if you're just going through the very beginning, like if you're a steward and you're kind of feeling this, it really depends on a lot of factors. I don't feel, me personally, I don't feel comfortable saying do this or this, but I would say if it's not a toxicity issue and it's not like this is just like I don't even enjoy it, I hate going here at this point, then keep going through it, because you got to be the change you want to see, right? Because that lodge isn't going to improve itself by you just not showing up. So if you can, I would definitely follow through. But also, to Dennis's point, the travel is very important. You can do both if you can stomach. I hate saying that word in this context. If you can just bear through it, then I would still also find a lodge that maybe you're more comfortable with, and that's kind of where you get your Masonic fulfillment, right? But this is where I go to serve. This is where I get filled, right? This is where I get recharged. This is where I put the work in. That kind of thing, or something like that. You can do both. You can. Well, at least here in Texas, you might not be a Texas Mason, but here in Texas we have dual memberships with other lodges. But you don't even necessarily have to be a member of that lodge. If you're getting more fulfillment out of visiting this lodge, then just go visit it, but still stick through. Unless, like I said, like if it's like a bullying issue and they're just like, you don't feel welcome, you don't really feel like they wanted you, they just wanted your dues or something like that, then that's a separate thing.
Yeah, and if it is, I don't know, if you do have a few brothers there that you get along with well, ask them to go with you to these other lodges and visit these other lodges, because having 2 or 3 people see different styles in different lodges is very helpful. Mm-hmm. Doing it all by yourself is very difficult. It's a hard road to hoe.
It is.
So carry a brother with you.
He says,
just ask somebody. Yeah.
He says, you guys, one of my mentors said that, so I'm going to do that. And he said it shortly after you, so I think that's what he's talking about. I haven't been to Scottish Rite in a few months. He's a Tyler, apparently. So, I mean, it really also depending on when the elections are. Like, if you still feel that strongly when the elections come around, politely bow out, right? Depending on when the elections are in your jurisdiction. Like, if you still feel that strongly, here's March now, April, May, June. Where, I mean, we're almost there. Just bear with it for a few more months. But yeah, I wouldn't just walk away from it and just be like, deuces. I wouldn't do. I only do that to drive Dennis crazy.
If you're gonna leave a lodge, that's the way you should leave it. That way, you make sure you can never come back.
That's accurate.
And it really does depend on why they asked you to get in the line and all that kind of stuff, because sometimes they just want somebody in there that they can put in and control. They just want the new guy in there because they need fresh blood. They didn't have anybody else, but they want you to stay under their thumb. Yeah. But really, you do need to learn stuff from the guys, right? That is what we're supposed to be doing. One of the very most basic principles we should be learning in lodge is how to be an apprentice at all times, how to learn from others and accept that mentor relationship, that master apprentice relationship. So it's tough, man. It's tough being a young Mason. It's been a while since I have been, but even
long time.
Yeah, and even in but even it still holds true today though with the things that I do and all the all the activities. I still with my newfound work that I do in masonry, I still find the same thing holds true. I just have different mentors now. So, and that's another thing is that as you move along, your mentors are going to change, and it's going to change based off of your needs, and it's usually not a dry run thing. It's usually a pretty organic. Just kind of eases into it as you go along. You find new mentors to help you along. I I try my best to help everybody that I can, but I know that at some point people are going to outgrow me, and I hope they outgrow me.
That's the point.
I hope that my hope is that brothers do better than I do.
Well, it's like raising kids. You hope they get to the point where they don't need you anymore. It's
Not just not need me, but do better than me.
And do better.
Yeah. I hope that can be part of my legacy. I want my legacy to live on in somebody else.
But it's the same thing with people will come in and out of this inner circle over the years, and that's fine. Come and grow, and then when you feel like you've grown, like if you get to a point where you don't need us, move on. We're other pastors and stuff. Like, we're here to teach, and like every teacher, there's a time when the student, sometimes they're not right. I'm not saying they're always right, but they feel like they're moved past a certain point, or they're just like they're sitting there and like, okay,
move on.
They do need to move on. Exactly. They're not getting the growth that you were.
Way. They just need to. If that's where it's pulling them, then that's fly, little penguin, fly.
But the same thing can happen to a lodge. Like a new guy can join a lodge.
Get that? You're supposed to laugh.
But
fly, little penguin, fly.
What's that from? I don't know what it is.
It's not. It's for me.
Oh,
penguins don't fly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Dennis.
Thank you, Brad. I'm sorry I had to explain this to the rest to him.
Gosh, he was so worried about everything being factually correct earlier. Now he's like, "Fly, penguin, fly." Hypocrite. But with lodges, it's the same. It's the same concept, though, right? Like a lodge.
I'm not quoting anybody.
Like when you're new to masonry, you learn a lot, regardless. You're going to learn a lot at that lodge. But sometimes you might get to a point where you're like, okay, things feel like my learning feels stagnant, and there's different things you can do. You could go to like Scottish Rite. You could bring the education to your lodge. You can find another lodge that has, and not leave your lodge, but you can find another lodge that is at the level you need. There's lots of options, right? But I would say if a Mason joins one lodge, never visits another lodge, and that's all he does is just go to that lodge for his entire Masonic career.
He's hurting himself and his fraternity.
Yeah, he's not growing. He's showing up, but he's not growing. And you can say, well, you don't know that. He could be going home and reading and stuff. Well, who's he talking to about it? Right? He's not going to the lodge and talking about it. So that's a huge part of it. You can't just. That's why we're having the whole book club. You can't just read it and just move on to something else without discussion and internalization and processing.
And at one time, so in your and my journey, when we first started this thing together, it was more of a matter of fact how to do better in your lodge type of learning. It was more of an educational sense in lodge management, lodge management and functionality and whatnot. And now we're moving further into more esoteric minded topics and principles and things like that. And that's a lot like what you need as you move along as a brother in a lodge. I mean, when you first start, you really do need to understand the core values of your lodge, the core principles of running a non-profit organization. I mean, you're herding cats. You're dealing with a bunch of volunteers.
Yep.
And so you can't tell people what to do. You've got to motivate them. You've got to get them excited about your idea. You have to become a salesperson. but later on, after you've done that, once you get into junior warden, senior warden, you're kind of working through your ideas, and you've got everything on paper ready to go. You're fixing to start executing as worshipful master. And at that time, you can stop focusing so hard on learning how to manage your lodge, because you've learned it all. Now you're putting it into practice. So now you're learning how to execute. And then after that, then you become the past master who needs to teach that to the next guy in line. And actually you're teaching the guy behind you the whole time. So
You should be.
But then as a past master, you're really just the cheerleader of the lodge to every one of them, not just one or two. And so the dynamics change. And that's the point where you start to be able to take your little deep dives into your principles and esoteric journey. And don't get me wrong, you can do it in, like avenues like what we're doing and with our book club that we're going to have. And that's going to be the 8th is when we're starting our first one, right? And so our first discussion of the Kabbalion by the 3 initiates. So if any of you are interested in being a
That's Saturday?
inner circle member, then come on. Is
Saturday.
it Saturday?
That's a Saturday.
Is that when we
I
said
was thinking we were going to do it on Sunday. I was thinking the 9th for some reason.
Is that what we're going to do, Brad? Keep us honest.
Sunday night.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
all right.
instead of doing the live, we were going to do this instead.
Gotcha.
Record this time.
This time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, then you can take your deep dives unless you want to do it in a side setting besides the lodge, but still you got to focus on what you can do to improve your lodge while you're an officer or what have you. There's different things to be learned, and our needs change as we progress through this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so
It doesn't matter.
I'm not one to just jump out unless Justin said, if it's toxic, then yes, absolutely get out of there.
Yeah.
You don't need to be around them. Just let their lodge collapse. But if it's not a toxic situation, then man, I say stick with it, learn the lessons you got to learn. That way you'll be more equipped to be that mentor to somebody else, the one that you really would have liked to have had but didn't have. So you can be that better mentor to the next guy as you move on in your journey.
Keep in mind also, it's not always, you can learn just as much from I'm not saying you have a bad lodge, but you can learn just as much from a bad lodge as you could a good lodge. It just happens much quicker. Instead of looking at what does work, you're observing what isn't working. What do I want to be sure that my ideal lodge never does? What are we doing for the candidates here that I want to be sure that no candidate should ever have to go through when I'm the worship master, or really you should be thinking of your ideal lodge. Like, how would we treat candidates in my ideal lodge? What practices do we want to be sure we're not doing in my ideal lodge? Because ultimately, like Dennis is saying, you're going to get to that point where you're not the apprentice, you're the creator, you're a builder. And we're not talking about just, you're a master mason. Because that journey itself from apprentice to builder is much more internal than just going through the degrees. But when you get to that point where you're ready to start shaping your ideal lodge, you'll know when you're there, and you should already have a good idea and recognize things. Like, I'm recognizing that behavior can lead to disarray or toxicity, or it might run off potential candidates. Or I recognize that, hey, that's a really good practice, and we need to be sure that we're encouraging what this guy's doing. But it's a growth process, and if you only learn from the good, you'll be sidetracked when the bad starts to rear its head.
Right. Well, another thing, through my experiences of being worshipful master and DDGM and being on the education committee for the Grand Lodge and stuff like that, I gained a lot of confidence. There's people don't scare me like they do anymore. Kick me out. I'm still on this journey. I don't care. I do care. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just not intimidated anymore by other people. They're not going to manipulate my Freemason.
Don't threaten me with more free time.
Right. No shit. But there's an appendant body that I'm fortunate enough to be the point on this year, and this year I get to have a little bit of fun. Through all my experiences, there are certain things that I really wanted to experience in my Masonic career, and this time I'm getting to do it because it is an appendant body and it is a invitation only. It's not people pressing down with their thumb on what we can and can't do. And so, like Justin said, that ideal lodge, man, get to have it. Mm-hmm. And here in a little bit, when we close out, I'll explain to you guys what happened in this ideal lodge. This it's not lodge. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't use that word because it's not. But in getting prepared for this, my mentor changed as well. In getting prepared for this lodge, the things that I wanted to implement and make happen, I reached out to Pete Norman. He was my mentor in this part of my journey. So we have, I've had diehard Blue Lodge members as my mentors in the beginning. They've always been diehard Blue Lodge members. But even through my Scottish Rite journey and my York Rite journey, and then now with this journey, I've gone back to somebody who understands anything and everything about the Blue Lodge, and he knows all the history, all the everything, and exactly what needs to be done and should be done in certain situations. And man, it's awesome. But your mentors will change as you go as well. So as you grow, they'll grow, and it's kind of cool. I'd say if you can, stick with it.
I would tack on to what you're saying, because he mentioned that he's really enjoying York Rite. These appendant bodies are a great place to, I hate to say experiment, but to try out these new ideas, because you usually have the most supportive guys are usually the ones that end up going like York Rite and Scottish Rite, right? They're your core Masons in your lodge. They're the ones that are going to go through these appendant bodies. But there's also, I don't know, there's more freedom to experiment with things, especially like a York Rite body. And so if you want to do like education before your meeting or something like that, you're going to get a lot less naysayers. It's a lot easier to try out these new things. You could build your ideal lodge in some of these appendant bodies, and then you have the experience and you have the actual data to take back to your Blue Lodge, where you can say, look, this is what we did in our York Rite. It worked really well. We've added X amount of members. We have education. This is how many people are showing up for our meetings. These are what we're doing. Let's start trying to implement this here. And it's not just some abstract concept that no one has seen in action, because often these will often also be a lot of the members at your lodge that are at that York Rite too. And you can say, yeah, I saw that and that's really good. We could do that.
Yeah, I highly recommend at least traveling around to all the local lodges in your district and just see how they do business. Try to implement that. That's all I did really in the beginning till I met you guys. Then I took it like way beyond wherever I thought I was going to take it, because I'm getting to not only travel in my district, but all across the world, really. I mean, for all the people that either come in the chat rooms or the, get on your show,
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We've tried real hard to create a cool space for people to go to.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, that's how I started. I started in the district, and then I started going outside of the district, and just right outside, so the next district over, and the ones all around me. Got to know brothers in different areas, and came to like it, and just started traveling more and more and more. And you're right. This one is by far this platform right here is one of the coolest experiences of my Masonic career. It really is. I really enjoy this. I love hanging out with you brothers every Sunday, and then meeting all the people that we talk to and interview, which we're going to be interviewing our brothers from the Philippines soon, and so that's going to be cool. And anyways, but y'all are going to like that, I think.
It's gonna be good, sure.
Good. It's good.
Good. Well, we're at 10:30. We're doing an hour and a half. By the time we're done wrap ups, it'll be 11. So we're gonna get into that.
Sure.
Okay.
Y'all go ahead.
Yeah, have at it.
I'll finish it up.
Brad, Jacob, John. Whoever wants to go first?
John, Jacob, Jingle.
I was thinking the same thing. I was. That's so funny. Like-minded brethren, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'll go. I just really liked the quote today. It was cool to just kind of think about the rhetoric that we're kind of talking about right now of opening up conversation on different topics. Well, it's one topic really, but exploring different ideas and ways to think about it. And me using an artificial intelligence software to try to dumb it down for me a little bit, because it's still all pretty new to me, and it feels like drinking from a fire hose sometimes, because there's so much and so many different things that you can learn about everything that but I really feel like it's all a bunch of just teachings and philosophies that help me be a better person. That's all I got.
Appreciate you sharing. Brother Atcher, John, you got something? Not I? Okay.
All right. I jumped on a little late, so I don't know. I guess I missed the part talking initially about the chapter that we were going to discuss tonight. I don't know if did that get pushed off or?
We talked about it.
Okay. Right on.
The book is next week.
Oh, I thought you meant the quote. Yeah, the book's next week, on the 9th.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. As far as that quote, just kind of wrapping it in, it was definitely something different, unique, and I'd have to agree with Brad. It's an exercise in rhetoric, and it's important because you don't get to practice that all that often anymore. At least not in today's society. It's just it's kind of been a whirlwind week for me. It was a busy Masonic week. We got a lot of stuff down here in the Southeast Texas region going on, and I'm just enjoying my weekly recharge, getting to talk with you guys. So,
appreciate that, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Jacob.
Thank you.
I think a lot of us get that weekly recharge out of this, which is good. I did something similar as part of my wrap up. Once Brad mentioned he used his AI, I plugged it into mine just to see. So this is what it said with that quote. This passage reflects a common legend in early Masonic manuscripts, particularly those influenced by the old charges and the Cook manuscript. The story of the descendants of Lamech, Jabal, Jubal, Tubal-Cain, and Nama play a significant role in Masonic lore, attributing to origins of key sciences and crafts to build biblical figures. The idea of knowledge being preserved through a great catastrophe, whether by fire or flood, is a recurring theme in esoteric traditions, which we have touched on before. The legend of the two pillars, one fireproof and one waterproof, appears in various forms throughout Masonic and Hermetic literature, connecting it to broader themes of lost wisdom and rediscovery. The references to Hermes discovering the pillar aligns with the figure of Hermes Trismegistus, the legendary source of Hermetic wisdom, which further integrates the Masonic mythos with Renaissance esotericism, which we've linked that before too, right?
Dude, that is much smarter than us.
This passage This passage reinforces Freemasonry's link to ancient wisdom traditions and its emphasis on the preservation and transmission of knowledge. It also reflects how speculative Masonry, emerging in the 17th and 18th centuries, sought to trace its philosophical and symbolic roots back to antiquity, giving it a sense of divine and historic legitimacy. So that was what I got from my end over here on ChatGPT, and I thought that was a pretty interesting little summary. But with that aside, I did enjoy the quote was a little bit different than the quotes we've been using in the past and a little bit lengthier, but just trying to keep it changed up. And I really appreciate everyone's thoughts and feedback. And I'll reiterate, like in the future moving forward, I encourage everybody that's in the inner circle, as you're traveling and reading and doing whatever Masonic related, it doesn't have to be strictly Masonic, but something that really strikes you, really resonates with you, make note of that. Write it down, earmark that page, something, and then bring it to the table on Sunday. And we don't have to talk about whatever I or Dennis picked for the entire conversation. We can have that discussion, and then we can move on to things you found too. And I think what you'll find is that there's almost like a resonance going on, and we often see this. We'll look at like the summit we hosted. We didn't exactly know what everybody was going to be talking about, but then when we get there,
Yeah, we didn't tell anybody what to talk on. They all chose their own topics, and then
I mean, that's often the theme is the universe just kind of brings everything together where it wraps it up nicely. And so don't feel like you have to like fit into like a specific narrative. I may pick a quote that's strictly Masonic. Dennis may have heard something elsewhere that's not strictly Masonic, but as he shares it, we realize, holy crap, this ties right into what we were talking about anyway. So don't feel like you're shoehorned into a specific theme or something for the week. Just because the whole point here is personal growth, but also the point here is practicing rhetoric, so we can take that back to our lodge and we can have these discussions. And also don't feel about being wrong, right? We talked about like esoteric gatekeeping before. Just share your thoughts, your feelings on the reading, and we can explore that. No one here is going to call you stupid or try to like shoot you down or anything like that. Now they might in chat, they might in the comments, but they're not here, right? So we're just worried about these opinions right now. Other than that, I always say, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate each and every one of you coming on every weekend and having these conversations with us. And like Jacob pointed out, like others have pointed out, this is kind of the recharge for the week. This is where I touch base Masonically. I go out to lodges, especially as a district instructor. I'm giving a lot. I go and I give. Hey, this is where I come and get. Right. This is where I recharge, and I hope y'all all feel like you're getting as well. Which is odd because we're also here giving. We're all giving at the same time. But I think just the synchronicity of having like-minded men does a lot to help us to charge back up. So thank you. I appreciate you. If anybody's watching that wants to get in on this inner circle action, I strongly encourage you to click the join button just below the video, and you can join the inner circle and get in on it. It's not expensive, and it just shows that you get value out of what we're doing, and you want to contribute, and that contribution also gives you the opportunity, if you want to contribute just more than financially, come in here, have conversations with us, share your thoughts, and grow with us. Because as each of y'all come onto the inner circle and grow, we grow. We're challenged. We have to keep up. So appreciate all of you again, and that is my final thought.
Good deal. The thing that I would add to that particular portion of it is that as a inner circle member, you get ad-free content as well as private talks with us before or after, and after sometimes. our shows, and then like we were talking about before, we're gonna discuss. We're going to have one night a month that's going to be dedicated to book study, and we always talk about um, education basically being the cornerstone of Freemasonry, and so if we're not willing to put our money where our mouth is, then we need to just pack up our toys and go home. We do get a lot from these conversations. However, I think that we can get a lot more from each other if we read these principles that we know are part of our Masonic experience, and help each other work through them. That being said, I have a quote that I'd like uh, to say, and that is that definitions are given by definers, not the defined.
I
So
like that.
that's a thought that I would like to throw out there. I choose not to be defined. I don't want to put myself in a box, and I don't want to put anybody else in a box. And so, as Freemasons, we are free thinking men, the gentlemen of the day, trying to find the solutions of the day, supporting each other. What are you?
Your voice did something for a second there. I thought you're going to throw up or something. Trying to find.
Freemasons. Freemasons are free thinking, the gentlemen of the day, finding solutions for the problems of the day. Our problems today are not external. Our problems today are internal. We have external forces that we choose to give our internal to, like never before.
Yeah.
We have Facebook, YouTube, you know, like with you right now. You're watching us on YouTube. But that's okay. This is a better experience, right? This is a little bit better. But we have all this social media that's filling our brain with a bunch of crap. You have different TV shows that are filling your brain with a bunch of crap. I and intensely concentrated, constant beratement of our intellect. And so we need each other to work through all the issues of the day. And no, this isn't therapy, but it is therapeutic.
Mm.
So I think that given the opportunity, I will do this day in and day out every day if I had an opportunity to do so. Because, like y'all said, it recharges me once a week, and I could easily use a recharging just about every day. Once the girls are gone to bed, I'm cool with recharging. I'm one of those people that, I have to get up at 6:30 in the morning. I don't have to be at work until 8 in the morning, and then I really don't work all that hard. But I have to get up at 6:30 in the morning so that I can read, meditate, and focus on where I want my life to go for the day. Every day I get to wake up, and as someone who is not defined, I have the will and power to choose every day. I can have a good day or a bad day. I can have an insightful day, or I can have a total mind cluster of a day. It's up to me. That is a gift of God to me. That is the gift of God within me, really. And so I want to encourage everyone out there listening that, you, no matter what you do, whether you want to move, deeper into discussion with us in the future or not, I don't care. Go deeper into yourself. Invest in yourself. That's what's most important. Because our families need us to be connected with ourselves so that we can be connected with them. If we don't understand who we are, and if we don't know what we believe in, how in the heck are they going to know who to believe in? And I've been learning that pretty intensely lately. You know, like all you know, I travel a lot. I do a lot for this fraternity, with this fraternity. And it takes a toll.
Mm-hmm.
And if I hadn't reflected, I wouldn't understand that basic principle. And so now I'm focusing inward on my internal so that I can affect my external in different ways. And I want to encourage everyone to do the same thing. Stop and reflect. Doing all this isn't worth a damn thing if we don't stop and reflect. See where we are, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. Me personally, I know I'm going to get there with you guys, no matter what. I'll get there with you guys. Just had to throw that out there. But anyways, it's been a great episode. I can't wait for to start digging into these Hermetic teachings and doing that. I'm already thinking about one of the books after. Actually, a couple of different books after. I mentioned one to Justin, and that may be too heavy for us, but I'm excited about this new venture in our show, and I'm excited that I'm going to get to go through it with you guys. And if y'all need anything from me, you just let me know. Going to San Antonio this week, Corpus this week, and Houston this week, and it's going to be a damn good week. I hope all of you guys get to visit with as many good brothers as I get to visit with, and get some good experiences and stories to take and share with the masses. Otherwise, love you guys. Keep it between the points.
So Dennis has this thing. Right, this is my new buy. See y'all.
If you hang on for a second, I'll tell you what happened last night.
Hey, I was